Ambassador, first, I'm sorry that your country once again is under a constant barrage of rockets and threats. It breaks my heart.
There are always going to be these kind of people. But can I tell you something? This is a source of hope. When I'm getting trashed, and Israel is getting trashed by people of that sort, you know who's giving us a defense? Our former enemies, the Arabs. The Arabs in the Gulf. You know, I call up some of these contacts I have. I've developed now relationships where I run a think tank in Jerusalem, and I have think tanks in Abu Dhabi and in Bahrain. And I call these guys to feel out. Maybe they don't want to be in touch with us now because of all the war with Hamas. No, are you kidding? They want to be in touch with us. And they understand because they face the same threat. Who is funding Hamas? Who is supplying them with weapons? Iran, the same country that's...
Well, wait a minute. Joe Biden gave the Palestinians $245 or $35 million 40 days before the attacks began. Money that Donald Trump was not giving or providing.
You know, I don't know what that money went to. Probably you can't monitor it in any case. But the thing is, we the people of the Middle East, are facing the same threat. This regime wants to take over our region. And if it's necessary, we'll pull together, Arabs and Jews, and we will fight them. And we will prevent that from happening. In the meantime, Israel is taking extraordinary military measures to minimize the threat to innocent civilians, but destroying every bit of Hamas's military infrastructure that it can get its hands on. And that's the way to fight these new modern wars, and that's what we're doing.
Let me tell you, 5 years ago, if you would have told me that Ambassador Dore Gold, Prime Minister Netanyahu, you mentioned Bahrain and Abu Dhabi, but that an alliance has emerged also, an intelligence sharing between the United States and Israel and Egypt and Jordan and Saudi Arabia, something nobody could have predicted, all in response to the threat of a nuclear-armed Iran and Iranian hegemony in the region. And the most underreported story, Ambassador, is that we now have caught the Iranians getting weapons from Russia and China and delivering them to Yemen for the proxy war that they are waging for the rest of the Middle East.
That is correct. I paid attention that this month a vessel was stopped by the U.S. Fifth Fleet in the Indian Ocean carrying thousands of assault weapons, machine guns, sniper rifles, all bound for Yemen, for the Houthi militias. But you know what they're also not reporting? Those Houthi militias are firing Iranian missiles, not at some military target in Saudi Arabia. They're firing them at the capital city, Riyadh. Now, I'm saying that in outrage because I feel they're facing the same problems we are. Well, we have these missiles, Iranian missiles, coming into Tel Aviv, aimed at Jerusalem, and, we're taking them out. One of the things the Hamas built up over the last number of years was an elaborate underground system in the Gaza Strip, including a little subway for moving their people around underground. Well, Israel has destroyed that subway. It's taken that system out so that they understand that they can't operate with impunity. We must do what we have to do to fight Hamas, to take out its military capacity, and to minimize the threat to innocent civilians. And that's what we do. One more thing I wanted to share with you. Yes. You know that I'm sure you saw that building which had the AP in it and Al Jazeera in the Gaza Strip that the Israeli Air Force hit and took down. Well, we have a system, and I think we're one of the few armies in the world that do this. We give a warning before we strike, and we have a warning system called a knock on the roof. It involves a light munition that hits the roof of a building like that, and it lets them know they've got 5-10 minutes to get out of the building because we're going to take the building down. Who does that? Israel does that to protect innocent lives. And
well, maybe too. Maybe Hamas terrorists should stop firing their missiles into Israel from hospitals and schools and highly densely populated areas.
Absolutely. And from mosques, we have photographs of their, anti-aircraft systems put into mosques. So it's just ludicrous. Winston Churchill said, people should never confuse the arsonist with the fireman. Blame the guy who's coming to put out the fire for being an arsonist. Come on. That's what they're doing. That's what a lot of this media is doing to Israel. And it is unfair, but we will do what we have to do to protect ourselves. And we will work with our Arab allies. Yes, Arab allies, to fend off Iran and the terrorist groups that support its interests in the Middle East.
Well, I will tell you, we never had a better position in terms of the strength of the American-Israeli alliance than under Donald Trump, moving obviously the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. It's right home, but also on intelligence sharing, also on border issues involving Gaza and elsewhere. Israel, I don't think
you recognize the Golan Heights as Israeli territory.
Yeah, exactly, huge. And now, frankly, I feel like we're returning to the very difficult days of Biden-Obama and the impact of Biden wanting to now re-engage the Iranians that chant death to Israel, death to America, burning Israeli flags, burning American flags, is beyond concerning to me, because that also resulted in billions of dollars in cash and other currency handed over to mullahs in Iran in exchange for nothing.
Tony Blair, the former British Prime Minister, has a research center in London that does work on the Middle East. And they just put out a report in 2021, this year, about Iranian militias that are operating in our region. And in it, they have this incredible sentence that people expected that after the 2015 JCPOA, the Iran deal, that Iran would mellow out, that Iran would become more moderate. And they admit that the exact opposite occurred. Iran got much worse. And we found Iranian activity in places where we never saw it before, like Morocco. So why am I saying this? Because Iran is, you've had a lesson. And the lesson is that the last time a deal was made with Iran, many more Iranian militias sprouted up like mushrooms. And, you've got to make sure that if anybody's negotiating with Iran, that the same thing doesn't happen in the Middle East, doesn't face a new wave of threats.
The number one state sponsor of terror, and I can't believe that they handed over billions and didn't even get any place, any time inspections out of it.